Hi, and welcome to Ladies of the Paranormal World. Today you are here with Archangel, Wendigo, and Skinwalker. Unfortunately, today Drusilla is not able to be with us today. And we are also with our VVIP guests. And I'm going to have to look real close because I can't see very well. Rob and Stevie, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you guys are a investigation group, or is it just you two?
It's us too, but we are a group.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Now,
we initially were a larger group, but our group founders moved away to another state, and she kind of left everything in our hands. So Stevie and I are keeping up with it.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
So we started out big, got a little smaller. Now, do you guys still do things across, like, even though she moved, do you guys still work together in any way?
Well, she's
We
still definitely our mentor, and we consult with her. Um, but on investigations, it's just now Stevie and I.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to start from the very beginning of what drew you to the paranormal field. What experience, and I'm sure you guys probably have different experiences, so we'll take turns, drew you to the paranormal field? What was your very first paranormal experience? The one that kind of made you go, you know what? I really want to find out more.
Yep.
um so I guess for me, I've always been interested in the paranormal ever since just kind of like school and whatnot. I come from California, even though now living in PA. I'm a transplant, so I actually moved out here from Southern California. So in school, I had friends who are also interested in paranormal stuff. So we would go and investigate in kind of different known hot spots and such, Black Star Canyon, Queen Mary, so places like that that just we wanted to see more. And then as I personally had my own little personal experiences, I became more interested. My first true experience, I guess I would say, would be when I was working at the Whaley House. Whaley House is in Old Town San Diego. It's a very, very famous like haunted house that's been
Mm-hmm.
on several shows. I worked there for a few years, just kind of giving tours, going over stories, learning about the history of the home, the land, Old Town San Diego. So I got a lot of personal experiences working there, and I was drawn to working there just because, again, of kind of my fascination and curiosity. And then just Old Town San Diego is just just a beautiful part of San Diego and rich in history. So it just kind of felt like a no brainer.
Oh, okay.
So while working there, I had experiences of hearing footsteps. It's a two-story house where Thomas Whaley, when he built the house, it was built on a gallows site. And so when he actually built the house, the family lived upstairs, and the actual bottom part of the house was his business and his store. So um, while working there, I would just have experiences all the time, hearing footsteps, kind of going up the stairs,
Mhm.
shadows wisping around like the corner when you walk into a room.
Oh,
I would
wow.
say my very the one experience that I had that was just without a doubt kind of what really got me into wanting to really investigate was an evening in August where I was hanging out with two other friends of mine, Ed and Hannah, and we were just kind of just walking around after I got off work. So I actually closed the house, so I know kind of how it's set up, where vents, alarms, windows, and such like that. So after I got off work, me and my two friends are just kind of walking around Old Town, and we just swing by the house really quick. And behind the house, there is kind of, on the property itself, there's kind of a back house that they use kind of as their office. So for Save Our Heritage Soho organization, one of their
Mm-hmm.
offices was right behind the Whaley House. So we just went back there. We kind of sat on the steps, and when you sit on the steps, you can just look at the back of the Whaley house. So, and this is probably like 12:30, 1 a.m. So we're sitting on the actual deck, and we're just looking at the house. We're just chit chatting, and one of the upper windows on the left hand side, which belonged to, I believe it was Anna Whaley. One of the windows on the upper left hand side, the curtains. Now the curtains open from the middle, so it was just one of those things that it just gradually, we're all three of us, we just watched this curtain slowly just
Oh,
billowing and just start opening, and then over the period of seconds, it just got more extravagant. And
oh,
it was just one of those moments that none of us wanted to reach for our phone. Obviously, that's like the instinct is like, oh, let me get a phone, let me get a video. But it just felt one of those things that if you look away, it's going to stop, and then you'll just forever like just wonder. So it was just one of those things like, myself, Ed, and Hannah, we just sat there and we appreciated for what seemed like minutes, but I'm sure it was probably in actuality just about a minute or two. But we just watched the curtain just, almost like bellow out like it was going to open completely. And then it just started to just slow down, and then just came to a complete still. And that was
I
it.
think I would have been running the opposite direction if I could experience
I
that, to be
You
honest.
would think so, but I guess I was already kind of pre-trained with the experiences that were already happening in the house and kind of the energy of the spirits in the house, that I didn't feel threatened. Like it wasn't one of those that I was scared,
Okay.
because I've already been in that atmosphere. I've been in that energy for like, I think at that point it would have been 2 years. I would have been working there, year and a half approximately. So it wasn't scary. It was just one of those, I appreciated it. I appreciated the moment
Oh,
we had. It was just one of those, again, not going to grab a camera because you look away and it could be over, and then you just always wonder. So we just appreciated for what we were given. We appreciated for that time that, they said hello and
right.
stopped. And then we talked about it and just kind of, geeked out a little over it. Because all three of us couldn't believe what we were seeing. I personally had not seen to that point something so extravagant as a experience. So we just enjoyed it for what it was. So then once I actually moved out here to Pennsylvania is where I really just wanted to start getting into more investigating, because obviously out here is really rich in history and just culture and just old fashioned, homes and such. So it really just it really ramped up my interest after actually moving here to
You know,
PA. But yeah.
it's funny you said you're in PA because so am I. Rochelle also says Whaley House is on my bucket list. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us live, we are going to do live Q&As. We do live Q&As every night. So if you have questions for our guests, questions for me or my co-host, feel free to ask them as we are live, and we will answer them as we go. So where do you mind if I ask where in PA you guys are posted right now? Not direct addresses, but just general location.
Harrisburg.
Harrisburg? Oh, that's not far from me. I'm York.
Oh.
I'm in
You're like
Lemoyne.
45 minutes from me.
Yeah, I'm in Lemoyne, not far from you.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
wow. Maybe we could get together and work together in these investigations.
Yeah, we should absolutely do that.
That would be
Definitely,
awesome.
I would
You
love
would
that.
just have to pick me up because I don't drive. Y'all Philly drivers, I'm from Washington State. Y'all Philly drivers scare the hell out of me. I'm sorry, but the tractor trailers on the roads terrify me.
Yeah,
Do you think that's terrifying? Have people driving that lived in a desert when it starts raining. It's like they
No,
have
I'm
no
good.
idea what they're driving on. It's like they switched from solid road to icy roads.
No, I'm good. Okay, Rob. So, what was your first true experience that got you really just revved up for the paranormal?
My story is a little different because I was raised more about. My mother was always obsessed with psychic things, dreams, and she had all these experiences with like deceased relatives and such, and I didn't have that, but she raised me in that environment, and my ancestry has more folk magic practitioners. We had a couple of Pennsylvania German powwows in my ancestry. So I myself am a practitioner of Pennsylvania German folk magic. Um, but I've always had a deep interest in things because I've had religious experiences, but I never had an experience that I could say that I saw a ghost or a spirit, and I've always been fascinated by it. And so several years ago, when Pam posted online that she was looking to build a team of paranormal investigators, I signed up right away, and that's when I met Stevie. And now Stevie and I like seem to work really well together. When we were on investigations, we would get EVPs and readings on our equipment, and because I'm coming at it as a blank slate, like I've never had those experiences outside of religion. Um, I'm fascinated by it because I so want to have those experiences, but I also have kind of a scientific mindset where I'm like, well, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that, maybe it could be
Right.
this.
Well, it's good to have that mindset. It really is.
Yeah, Stevie and I balance each other out very well because we get we get these EVPs and such. For some reason, when Stevie and I work together, we get things and our equipment registers things. And Stevie's very good at analyzing the data we collect and such. So, but yeah, so I just came out of just being raised like by my mom, who was so into all of this. And having folk magic in my family and such. So that's kind of where I come from with that. I'm still waiting for a true experience that I can just be mind blown. But I'm totally open to it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, now so you spoke about folk magic, and since this is a paranormal show, do you mind if we ask a little bit about what folk magic is? Now I know what it is, but not everybody does. What's folk magic, and what are its uses?
Well, I mean, we could probably do a whole separate show on that, really.
Let's just
But
try to summarize for now.
okay, so just really quick, and then we'll get back to ghost stuff.
Yes.
Pennsylvania German powwow is the folk magic brought here by the German-speaking immigrants who fled Europe because of persecution by the Catholic Church. And they came to Pennsylvania and they were able to establish their own churches here, Lutherans, German Reformed, that sort of thing. But they also had a folk magic tradition called Brauerei. And it was healing, protection against witchcraft, that sort of thing. And
Okay.
it's been practiced for over 300 years here in Pennsylvania. It's a Christian folk magic tradition,
Okay.
but there is a paranormal investigation sort of element to it because our culture is kind of superstitious. But people have also had paranormal experiences where they would call their local brauerei, also known as a powwower, to help them remove a spirit from their property and such. And because I didn't know much about this was also one of my reasons for reaching out to this paranormal investigation group so I could learn. And
Oh, okay.
I feel like Stevie and I have been taught by the best. And it's sad that she's no longer here in Pennsylvania with us. She lives in a different state, but she's still kind of like there for us to consult with and such.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. Okay, so I guess my next question is everybody knows there's a difference between, and we talk about this quite frequently, there's a difference between dark, negative entities or spirits and demonic attachments. Have you had a demonic encounter or a demonic attachment in any of your investigations that have made you feel like maybe you shouldn't be there or have caused you any kind of physical or mental or emotional harm?
Um, I would say for me personally, I haven't had anything identified as demonic. I mean, obviously, going to places feeling that energy of either feeling unwanted or just kind of that darkest energy where something doesn't feel right, like you walked in on something. Definitely have had experiences like that, or just kind of going through I mean, even locally, like Gettysburg, just kind of, going into like certain hotspot areas and just feeling just like maybe I shouldn't be here, and just having that little inner voice look out for you and be like, just kind of guide you. So nothing that I would mark or, label as demonic, but, definitely if something doesn't want you there, if something doesn't want you around, it'll let you know somehow. Um, I've gotten some, I have gotten some EVPs that would indicate of just like, get out, or just like a really like grisly type voice kind of on the other end, to where maybe expressing displeasure or expressing, just wanting to, for us to move on. So obviously, I mean, had those experiences, but can't label them as like this, definitely happened, or this was definitely, a angry spirit, because I don't know.
Right. Absolutely. All
Um,
right. How about you, Rob?
well, I just want to say one of the investigations Stevie and I were both a part of. It was when the greater group was still together before people moved on. It was a private residence, so I can't say a whole lot, but
Hmm.
at the time, we didn't really, I'm not sensitive to things, like I can't feel stuff. But at the time, we just felt like, this might have been a bust. But then on a later revisiting of all the recordings we did, we heard a lot of foul language. Uh, it sounded like several people having conversation with one another. Um,
Hmm.
saying curse words to one another and such.
Oh.
And this was alarming to me because
Oh,
I wasn't afraid there.
is he breaking up on your
I
end
was just
too?
Rob, you're cutting out a little bit, buddy.
Yeah, you cutting out, honey.
reported very disturbing.
You cut out, honey.
I'm so sorry. Um,
Okay, so let's try that again. Let's try that again. I think we made it to like two sentences into you telling that story before it got cut out.
yeah, so from my perspective, you guys all froze. Okay. Yeah, so we weren't afraid when we were there because it was a modern constructed house, but the homeowners were experiencing things that frightened them. So
Okay.
we
Uh, did he freeze again?
So this would be a great lesson in spirits sometimes interfering with electronic equipment.
yeah.
Here we are having a ghost
Okay.
conversation, and then batteries aren't dying, but signals are being crossed.
I'm going to say it as fast as I can. Okay. It was a modern home, beautiful house. The homeowners were experiencing some crazy stuff. We went in there. We didn't feel anything. I don't have that ability. I'm not psychic. But we set up all of our equipment. We got crazy readings. We had our REM pod going insane in the bedroom. But we listened to all the recordings afterward. We heard cursing, discussions between people that were very hard to make out that it wasn't us. But we picked up voices, curse words, foul language. And it frightened me. It was very alarming because all of this is going on. We could not hear this when we were there. It was only
Oh,
after listening to these recordings. I was alarmed by that. I was disturbed by that because I thought, what is this? Who are these like people talking to one another? And, obviously we never know. We
right.
don't. But to have this on recording, to hear these voices cursing at one another and arguing with one another, it just made me realize, like, if there are spirits in this household, it's no, and they sound so negative toward one another. It's no wonder the homeowners themselves are kind of feeling some sort of way about it.
Mm-hmm.
but I have no answers. There you go. That's my. Stevie was there. He was there. He experienced that as well. When we were there, again, nothing. It was only
Yeah.
afterward listening to the recordings,
Right.
bringing it up on our computers and analyzing it, that we could hear voices cursing one another, and cursing
Right.
by saying curse words, not witchcraft
Right.
curses.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot that comes with, I've noticed with EVPs. Even if you try to listen in real time, you don't always make out what they're saying. But um, when there seems to be conversations where we're not particularly included, um, is
Mhm.
generally what would be considered either, uh, excuse me, the word's right at the tip of my tongue too, and I just can't. I just had it. Residual, or there is some kind of battle still taking place even after the battle's been fought and lost or won or what have you. Um, in your particular experiences, in your professional experiences, is it wise to try and decrypt or decode or listen to the EVPs live? Um, because from my standpoint, I feel like you could have a lot of misunderstandings if you try to do it there. Most of them are scratchy, hard to hear. What do you think?
So I like to review EVPs after the fact, just because then you kind of. I like to review recordings a little bit more after the fact when it's done, because I think obviously there's great merit to kind of doing it on the spot or going back, and if you hear a noise, pausing recording, going back, listening to it, see if anything's connected to it. But a lot of EVP recording stuff, I'll just let recorders, cameras, and just everything just go for whatever length of time, and then go back later and review it where I'm just in much more like quiet place and quiet mindset. Because obviously during investigation, your senses are heightened, because that's what you're opening yourself up to. You're opening your energy and inviting, protectively. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
another conversation, protecting yourself. Um,
Yes.
you're opening yourself, inviting things to communicate with you. So your senses are already a little bit more heightened. So again, me personally, I like to just go back later and then just review when I'm in a calmer mindset, and I can just really focus and hone in on little details of it.
I
Because that way, yeah, it feels more authentic. It just that way during the investigation, for me personally, it keeps me in the moment while we're investigating, and then I just have the research that I can do afterwards. But absolutely, if there's something where you know if we hear a whisper, if there's a knock, if there's a crash, if there's something that is really audible at the time, then yes, absolutely pausing it and going back and seeing if we can make sense of it. Because if it is something, then maybe we can focus in a few more minutes on that particular instance and see if we can get it to, keep going, keep adding on and building upon what it already did.
Right, exactly. That, or there's people that tend to look at every crash, bang, slip, fall, footstep is paranormal. Some of it is just as simple as old
Well,
buildings. Go ahead, honey.
Can I say something really quick? Uh,
Absolutely.
Recently, Stevie and I were in the Gettysburg area, and I was kind of hearing something. I didn't know what. And of course, my mind was like, I'm hearing a battle. And, I'm like, Stevie, bring that recorder over here. I'm hearing something. It's so faint. And he brought the recorder over. We could hear almost like people yelling and carrying on in the background. And I didn't know where it was coming from, neither did he. And then all of a sudden, this whole group of bicyclists came around the corner and across the bridge where we were. So it was like, it was definitely not anything paranormal. But the
Debunked.
way, right, it was instantly debunked. And we started laughing, and all
Yeah,
these
to tell
people
you
on
the
bikes came across. But it was just like this kind of cool experience. Like, I could hear something. It was very faint. All these people, you know, and we're like, bring the recorder. I hear this. And kind of
Yeah.
funny.
It's
Um,
funny because that same morning that he's talking about was just about like 2 weeks ago. We went right before Labor Day, and we actually got an EVP from Saxbridge. So that was exciting, because some people wonder, like, well, do ghosts only come out at night? Do paranormal does stuff happen only at
oh,
night? This I got an EVP at 8:30 in the morning. Because we went. I had the idea of, like, why don't we try to go look at Gettysburg, but go in the morning before all the tourists are there. So since it opens up at sunrise, go out there at sunrise, go onto the battlefield where it's quiet, and just investigate, see what happens, put on some recorders, talk, and invite them to, interact. And so,
right.
and it was a great idea because, the weather was nice, and there wasn't like cars and people, and there wasn't a whole lot of, evidence contamination that could happen. So we are on
Right.
Sachs Bridge at 8:30 in the morning, and we got an EVP. Um, what I've really been starting to notice, especially as Rob and I have been working more together, and doing our investigating ourselves, is that learning all kinds of do's and don'ts of kind of what to do for
Right.
next time, what we could do better. Because on that same, when we were doing these recordings on Sachs Bridge, I would notice that when I was walking, you can hear me walking. So obviously you can hear my footsteps walking, like back and forth
Right.
on the bridge, back, near the recorder. So when I was listening back, it was just one of those moments of like, all right, next time I do this, wear like booties, or next time wear like something else, because it was just one of those things that it was a missed opportunity. So when I'm listening to the EVP and I hear like footsteps, I'm like, oh, that could either be me or it could be somebody else. And I don't
Right.
want to say, oh, it's got to be a ghost, because very well it could have been me walking by, the recorder, for an instance. So I try to be critical because I want to believe, but I'm not going to make myself believe. Like I want to
Right.
debunk it because I'm going to be more excited when it's authentic. Um,
Exactly.
so listening back, and then Rob's story, about the bicyclist, that was funny because as they were all wisping by, it was just one of those, like, they were all saying hello, and you hear, but to the recording, all you hear are these little tiny voices going hello, hi, hello, good morning. So it was just little things like that have been making me understand better about evidence control and scene control,
Right.
and just putting things in place to minimize the interference that you're going to get with your equipment. So
Right.
that
That
so
and
when I heard
marking
the
it.
actual
I think
EVP,
marking it too would be a good idea. Like if you're walking, kind of say, "This is me walking," or "I'm walking," just so that you're
Yes.
marking that spot in time as your own personal interference.
Oh, we do that. Stevie
yeah,
and I have always done that. I remember a couple times we're like, it's 11:58 p.m. Rob's stomach just growled.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it happens. But yeah, Stevie and I are very good at tagging our stuff. So
there you go.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something that I've known more groups that haven't been doing it very long is one of their biggest mistakes.
yeah. No, it's one.
Okay,
One. We're so grateful we were taught that.
so my next question is going to be a good one, and it's Ouija boards. Ouija boards. What is your take on them? I am completely and utterly against them for the simple fact that you don't know what you're inviting in when you do it. And most people don't know how to close the doorway that they've opened once they've done so. Your take.
Rob.
Oh, did Rob leave
So
yet?
so my thing on it is, yes, I believe in, I do, because I believe prayers, incantations, such like that, spoken words can invite stuff in. So yes, Ouija boards, not a fan of, because you're right, people, yes, it's jokey, but you never know what you're communicating with. And then once you do communicate with something, you don't know what that something is. You don't know if it's a child, if it's a demon pretending to be a child. You don't know if it's a person, period. And so just people who are just very, very uncareful and just kind of very lax about that kind of stuff, yeah, not a fan of it. And just, it's not something that we would ever use in any of our investigations. And not even something I personally just would want to kind of mess with, just, by myself. Because I think over the years of doing this, as you do it more and kind of being enriched in this more, I now have a better level of respect for spirits, but also respect of not wanting to antagonize because, I've seen and been on the other end of, when other people try to antagonize spirits, you
Right.
know, bad things can happen. And Ouija boards, yes, circling back to that, not a fan because you don't know what you're inviting into your space.
Right.
And
Well,
you
and
don't know
you
how to
leave
close that
yourself.
door if you do open it.
I was gonna say you also leave yourself spiritually vulnerable for an attachment that you definitely will not want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I wore my Ouija board T-shirt because I couldn't find my Spirit Searchers T-shirt. But I am dead set against Ouija boards. I think they open you up to something demonic. I mean, demonic spirits are like infamous for pretending they're something else. Like,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm
Exactly.
your great aunt Sophie, and I'm here for you, and you invited in and such. So I am very much against like the whole idea of seances, Ouija boards. I mean, it's Halloween, so we want to wear our spooky T-shirts, but we have to be careful with that crap. I mean,
Right.
stay away. There's nothing good can come from just opening yourself up to the spiritual realm and saying, I'm calling on whatever, because that's what you're going to get.
Right.
Whatever.
Exactly.
That's not always a good
I
thing.
have to say the same goes, in my opinion, applies to satanic cults or any cults. Reading from the Satanic Bible, any of these things leave you vulnerable to
Yeah,
being attacked.
I would think so too. Yeah.
Um, Another one that I've heard about, and I don't know if you guys have come in contact or had to uh, deal with anything like this, but mimicking. Mimicking is another thing the paranormal world is famous for. When a demonic entity mimics a child, mimics your voice, will come through your equipment sounding like someone you know, things like that. Have you had any experiences with mimicking?
I think I did. And this I can say is probably the only true paranormal experience I think I ever had. It was some years ago. Um, my son, I was standing in the kitchen here, and I look out this window here, and I could see my son over at the park. He was playing with his friends. And I heard his voice coming from upstairs that said, Daddy. And my immediate reaction was to go there,
Well, yeah, of course.
but there was nothing there. And then I realized he's over at the park with his friends. So I can't explain it.
Uh-huh.
I have no theories other than either my mind made it up or something was, yes, like using his voice to call me up there for some reason, but nothing else ever happened. So I would say, like, I definitely had that experience, but I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. Um,
Right. Now, do you think maybe something followed you home from an investigation at one point and just kind of
I don't
was
know.
there for a bit?
I don't know. I mean, we always like to think we're careful, but really, do we really know what to do to protect ourselves? Probably not.
Right, exactly. I mean, anything can happen. Doesn't matter how cautious you are. You could still end up with a situation where you end up taking something home that you didn't intend to.
Right. You're right.
How about you, Stevie? Any
Not
instances?
really. Nothing that I can honestly think about as far as mimicking. I've heard my name before. So during like a spirit box session or an EVP or just, even actually at our old mentor Pam's house, I heard my name audibly in my ear. So I've heard my name before in recordings and just audibly in person, but nothing that was like, I'm your great aunt or, I'm you, like anything like that. No, never had that experience.
All
Just my name.
right. Now, another thing that everybody loves to talk about, and I love to talk about it personally, mockings of the Trinity. right? 3 knocks, 3 scratches, 3 taps. Mockings of the Trinity. Have you come in contact with anything of these instances where you've heard 3 knockings, you've been tapped 3 times, you've had 3 scratches, anything of that nature?
I have been scratched and I have been tapped on, but nothing ever made me think of the Trinity of any of of mocking of Trinity. I've been scratched and I've had a single scratch mark. I have been tapped a couple times on the shoulder in some places, and absolutely knowing that there's nobody else there, but clearly like someone's trying to get my attention. But that's the first thing I thought about was something was trying to communicate versus instead of just like mocking religion. So I personally have not really had any experience with any kind of mocking at all. Or if I have, it's never come across. That's what it's trying to do. So I never even associated it with any kind of mocking.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay. I mean, I have with people who identify as witches, but not in a paranormal investigation. No.
Okay. Another one is audible, disembodied voices. Now, that's something that happens a lot on investigations, especially if it's a good hot spot. Um, what's the most intense investigation you guys have ever had that may have included disembodied sounds, voices, talking, and so forth?
My thought would be well, I have never heard anything. I've never heard anything
Audibly?
correct. But in our EVPs, when we go back and listen, there are things. So I would say there are two that come to mind that were the most powerful, that we could hear the most clearly. One was the private home we were talking about earlier. The other was a place in Mechanicsburg, which is an art gallery. Um, we've gotten some pretty good recordings of voices in both locations. The private residence was voices arguing with one another,
Right.
cursing one another. That was probably the strongest. The art gallery, we could hear words being spoken um, in response to questions we were asking. So you could hear us asking the question. We did not hear the answer, but on the recording, we could hear the answer. But it was only a couple of times. I mean, it wasn't, an actual conversation with the spirit, but there were a couple of times when our questions were answered. So those were my experiences. They both happened with Stevie. He may have had something,
Different happen at some other time.
Right. So.
I've had personal experiences with disembodied voices, not so much on investigations, but like back out, kind of going back to California again. Queen Mary is famously haunted in some spots. So I actually heard, two people kind of talking near the pool area, which is supposed to be a hot spot for Queen Mary. But this is when there was like 3 people on one of their tours of the underside of the ship. And it wasn't anybody that was actually talking on the tour. So it just sounded like 2 people were in a corner kind of like whispering at each other.
Oh,
And then the Whaley House, I heard kind of the same. I would hear the same thing about just walking in a room, and it just sounded like it. You heard people talking for a second, but it was one of those that, as soon as they walked in, they stopped. Like I almost interrupted what they were saying. There was one time I was going over a story, and it was at night, and I was talking about the gallows. And I don't know I honestly don't know what I said, but there was something during the story. I heard a very clear, distinct no, like in my ear. So I don't know if I said part of the story wrong. I don't know if they didn't want me talking about it. But that's something that it shook me for a second, but I kept going because, again, it was just one of those, I didn't know what it was. So I didn't want to just like stop and just kind of like freak out about it. So I just kept going with it. but it was something I always kind of just remembered as like I didn't know what to make of it. I will say during, again, not during investigation, but when we were at our friend Pam and Bruce's house before they moved, we were kind of doing just like a get together. We were just doing kind of a regular hangout night, and there would be some nights where they would get the group together and we would do like little mini exercises like in their house, because Pam and Bruce's house in Mechanicsburg was pretty haunted. They had a lot of activity that they would record that went on, and they had a lot of personal experiences at their house. And that's some of where our experiences also stemmed from, was in their place. So there was one about 2 years ago on my birthday, because we were over there for just like an evening. We were hanging out, and I was sitting on their staircase. And there's actually a picture online of me, and it's not the same scenario, but it's almost pretty much like the same kind of setting. So I was sitting on the staircase, and I heard something behind me say happy birthday, because it was my birthday at the time.
That's scary.
And there was 5 or 6 other people in front of me. So I absolutely know that there was no one in front of me, but it was just something that just kind of whispered like right in my ear that, and I stopped. I made everybody stop talking because I asked who, where that came from. And obviously no one heard it. No one said it. But it's just this little whisper kind of in my ear that was just like happy birthday. And, it gave me pause, but I wasn't like freaked out about it. It was just kind of like, okay. So things like that. So I've never had like conversations, but little blips like that, I've definitely come across and run into.
Okay, my quietest two down here, I can see them laughing. What are you guys? What are your thoughts? They got themselves muted for the dog.
Yeah, we keep it muted just in case the dogs go barking like a storm. But it's actually, that's kind of, I'm sorry, I would be like, what the fuck? Who just whispered in my ear?
Go saying happy birthday.
Well, internally I was, but I guess I was already in this space that I knew stuff had happened. So I think that is kind of calming, I guess, in a sense, when you're in a place that you've been to before that's a pretty safe space. So if things happen, then it's not really out of the ordinary when things happen. Because yes, if I was in a different place, if I was in a different house, absolutely, I probably would have freaked out, more. But in this place, it was a safe space. So, and it wasn't threatening. It was just I don't want to say an annoyance, but it wasn't threatening. It just was what it was at that time.
It was a weird house.
Buzzing in your ear. You kind of want to swat at it.
Yeah. It was a weird house where weird stuff happened. So I was there when that happened. So I remember that.
There's a picture on our Facebook page of me that a wonderful friend of mine took. And I'm sitting on the staircase, and there's an orb above my shoulder. So you can see it on our Facebook page, and friend snapped. And obviously she didn't know at the time, but then she sent it to me later. She's like, look what's above your shoulder. And I looked at it, and it's this nice little bright orb just sitting there, which I was like, all right, well then that's kind of cool. But it was just kind of in the same area and place where the voice came from. So talk about the activity on their stairs. So it's a good point of reference if you ever see the photo. That's pretty much kind of almost exactly where the sound came from. Was the same place where then someone later on caught an orb.
Right,
So.
and I can't wait to see what kind of photos and video and EVPs you guys end up sharing with us, because it sounds like you guys have quite a lot of experience with all kinds of different entities and what have you. So I guess my next question is going to be attachments, because I know I said a little bit about that, but not much. From an investigation where something has come home with you unintendedly and kind of stuck around for a little while before realizing it didn't belong there. Whether it was negative, whether it was non-negative, it just kind of happened to happen. Your thoughts?
I can say the very first time I went on an investigation with the team was literally my first investigation ever. And we it was the middle of the night. We all met at this art gallery at 11 p.m. And she separated us into teams, and Stevie and I were on a team. And I think I probably got home around 3 a.m. or something. I can barely remember. It was a couple of years ago, but it worked its way into my dreams. And I don't remember the specifics of it. I just remember feeling afraid, like something was in my bedroom that was not supposed to be there. Something was in my bedroom watching me and such. But it was only that one night, and I never experienced anything afterwards. But I do a lot of powwowing in my house, so I have a lot of protective things set up and such. But yes, that very first night, I can't say that anything brought me, I brought home. Maybe I did, or maybe it was just like my own sort of
Kitty
inner
cat.
fears that worked into it. But that's the only experience I ever had after an investigation where I actually like felt fear in my home. But again, it might have been psychological, probably was, because I haven't experienced anything since.
Oh wow. Okay. Now, how about you, Stevie?
That's a little. I can relate to that. I've had when we would do some of our earlier investigations because we were good about wanting to protect ourselves before we would actually leave a place. So we would audibly just try to let the spirits know that we do not want to be followed home. We don't want them to come with us. That we want them to stay where we found them. We want them to stay where they're at. But there has definitely been some times where I have gone home after an investigation and maybe just had like a really prolific dream, a really intense dream, or heard things or seen just little things kind of out of the corner of my eye that really did get me thinking, like, did I bring something here? So but yes, it could be slightly like paranoia, overexcited imagination from where you just came from.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're still in a heightened sense of like, letting things, come to you. But yes, there has been some times where came home and I'm just like, I need to put some kind of closing, you know, message out there just to kind of like shield myself off. So yes. And because
Right.
I do think that things, can follow you home, if if people are not careful. Energy travels, and so, and some circles, that's what spirits are, their energy, and energy can flow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead, honey.
I was just wondering if I could ask a question.
Oh, of course.
Um, what sparked this for you guys to get into this?
We all have different experiences too. Mine was when I was young. I want to say 6 or 7. We lived in a place in Washington State, which is where I'm originally from, by the way, uh, called Tillicum. And Tillicum is kind of like the bad part of town, on the edges, Philly type areas, and building where we were, I want to say, daily tormented by what I would consider a dark or a demonic entity. Um, there had been murders up the street from where we lived in. There was bullet holes in the building, so it wasn't like it was unfamiliar happenings. And I would see shadow figures, running across my room. I'd been scratched, so it felt like a burning sensation on my back. We would hear things moving around at night. Even in the daytime, we would hear footsteps of things going up and down the stairs. When nobody was moving, we'd be all in the living room watching TV or something. So that's kind of what sparked off my. There's definitely, we're not alone. We can try and tell ourselves we're not alone. Whether it's in a spiritual realm, whether it's UAPs, which the government has recently accepted the existence of and admitted, or whether it's on a cryptid sense. We may not have found it scientifically, but it doesn't mean it's not there. Um, so I guess for me, dealing with that as a child, and we dealt with it for about 2 years before we ended up moving. Um, that was definitely my eye opener. As for the boys, Wendigo and Skinwalker, your experiences.
Okay, so we had uh, our experience with ours was things would get chucked around, our pots and pans, shit on the stove will get chucked around. And my parents always told us there was a ghost that would follow us around where we would move named Fred. And he liked to play pranks. And one of the pranks that we got told was my cousin was taking a shower and the ghost ripped open the curtains and the doors were still locked. There was one time my parents, when we were really little, we were inside while my parents and stuff were outside putting up decorations for Christmas. They saw a figure in the window, and they were telling it to get out of the window because we had those curtains that were those metal ones that would always mess up, and they hated when we messed them up. So they'd tell us to get out of the window, and nobody would move. So they came inside the house to see that everybody just passed out on the couch.
Oh,
So
you guys didn't tell me about that one.
I've,
Tell
t-
me
I've,
that
said,
one.
I've said this one like 3 times on this entire show. Yeah,
I
Are
don't
you guys
remember. I remember
brothers?
things being thrown.
yeah, we're twins.
Yeah, they're twins.
Okay. 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 I wasn't sure. I didn't know if you were a couple or brothers. I didn't know.
Oh yeah, they're twins. Minus the
Yeah,
fro.
identical
Put the
twins.
fro in a bun, you got twins.
the hair. Okay. Yeah.
Um, any other questions that you got for us?
Yeah. What do you guys? So, what's your guys' like mission statement as a group? You know, what are you guys looking for? What brought you together, and what do you guys want to accomplish as a group?
Personally, we want to kind of open others' minds to the possibility of the paranormal because there are a lot of people out there that are very. There's no such thing. Well, there are people that can prove there is a such thing. And we've seen it, we've felt it from places that we've gone, places we've lived, people we've visited, investigations you've been on, that it's real. And trying to spread that belief a little bit, and also to try and find a recognition for people who do the investigations to be recognized, to be acknowledged. Hey, I'm here. We do this. This is our living. This is what we do for a living. Um,
Right.
this is what we experience. Because it's not like being a dentist where you can get your name on a bullet because you do the best dental work, or you're a neurosurgeon that makes 7-figure salaries. The paranormal field is something that's kind of under the table and almost barely recognized at all. I want to change that. My long-term goal in the long run is to be a part of an investigative team as well as what I do now, and branch out uh, with sharing videos from investigations that we do when we're out, which is why I kind of mentioned, hey, look me up. I'll join your team. But, I definitely want to try and open the eyes of the public to a very real field. I think it's
Well,
underrecognized.
that's awesome. You guys should definitely join us because we'll be at the Albert Witch Festival in Columbia. Lancaster County, the Albert Witch. It's October something something. I'll send you guys a link. But I'll have a booth there, and we'll be giving out. It'll be a powwow booth, but also our spirit searchers, paranormal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the place to go. I mean, that's anyway. We'll talk privately about that. We can
Absolutely.
Uh,
But yeah, I think it would be amazing if we could open people's eyes and make the field more recognized. I don't think it's recognized enough.
right, and you're right, and the people that are famous in it are like jokesters, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Like fake, like it's silliness.
Yes.
But there is something to this. There is a way for us to connect with people who have passed on. We just haven't figured it out yet, but we're getting there. And
Right.
like Stevie and I are so committed to this because we have such a passion for this. Because think about the ramifications. If we can prove that people go on after death, that's a game changer. That's literally what religion is founded upon. And
Exactly.
we're hearing recordings of people's voices that aren't there. What does that mean? I mean, that's huge. And I think all this silliness with, oh, we just heard noise, let's run and scream and let's have this show on, the History Channel, where that's BS. Like, for me, it's a question of faith. I very much believe in God. I very much believe in Jesus. I very much believe when we die, we go on. But this challenges that belief. So I want to know more.
It
Yeah.
does. It kind
Why
of
do
opens
people
the
linger?
possibility for other realities. Because then if we can prove that you're still able to linger around after passing, then
Right.
where are they going?
Right. What does
world
that
have they
mean?
gone into? What does that mean? Does that mean that we don't go to this place in the sky? And exactly like you said, it challenges that belief.
Yeah,
It challenges that belief.
absolutely.
So,
Well,
but at the same time, you kind of have to wonder if they go hand in hand, because we also believe in demonic entities. We believe in dark entities, dark spirits. It challenges things on more than one level. Uh, Personally, I think it brings the entire spiritual realm into question.
That's right. And if it doesn't, then I feel like it's not authentic. But correct. For me, it makes me question everything. Every time I hear an EVP, it makes me question everything. And I love that. It's, we'll probably never know. I mean, we're just like regular people with, our little EMF detectors walking through things like we're nothing. But this is exciting to us because it makes us question what happens after. Stevie has something to say.
Sorry, my fiance in the background.
and as a
He's
and as a group, I mean, Rob and I as a group, because we obviously started off bigger, with more people, but then just kind of, people left and situations and circumstances changed. And then it just got down to Rob and I. And so Rob and I were offered, like, do you guys want to continue this group and go forth? And we both jumped at it because of the message that it brings and what we believe in. I mean, Rob and I have, we generally like helping people. We generally like connecting with people. So part of us for our Spirit Searchers group is helping people understand. Because not only do we want to understand, but there's how many people out there probably have gone through their own personal experiences, or even still to this day have experiences, but may not talk about it because it's not widely accepted. It's not widely known.
Right.
It's,
People
it can be
are
widely
afraid to
disproven.
crucify.
So people keep it to themselves. And so part of what really draws me to it is wanting to help not only the understanding for myself, but help other people understand what they could be going through, what's around them. And then just having, maybe giving a little peace of mind, because none of us are going to really know the answers. We're never going to truly know until, we pass on. But at least having that understanding and that security, that's why Rob and I believe we're never going to charge people when we go out and do an investigation, is because it's not about making money. It's about just learning, understanding, and accepting. And then at the end of it, just, if we can help someone just feel a little bit better, we may not be able to give them the answer they're exactly looking for. But if we, but if there's a little peace of mind that can come, with the investigation, I'm all for that. So I won't take people's money because I believe with what we're doing could, be a much, could be a better benefit of, peace of mind is, could be the end goal, and the knowledge and understanding. And then obviously at the end of it, the cherry is the evidence, during review.
Right.
So we're all about wanting to help people, along with helping ourselves.
Exactly. I agree. Absolutely. Um, and you know, we're coming up on my hour, which sucks because I really like talking to you guys. We're definitely gonna have to set up another. uh,
Yeah, we're gonna get
time.
together soon, all of
Yeah, we're gonna
us.
have to return. Your biggest belief in the field. What is your favorite, absolute best in the field? If you had to pick a favorite
Ooh.
piece of equipment, from FLIR to REM pods to EVPs, go for it.
All right, I'll start here. All the equipment serves its purpose, and I like it. We've had really good experiences, like with a REM pod, crazy experiences. We've had very good EVPs. We've had crazy readings with our EMF, the whatever
EMF
it's called.
detectors.
The rent, yeah. Mel meter or whatever, yeah. But like we were taught, and now I'm now coming to understand, is our greatest tool is ourselves. It's our own eyes, ears, and our senses. Now I don't. I feel like I don't have that sixth sense. Maybe it'll develop over time, but uh, I think the best thing we can utilize, our greatest tool, is our own mind to say, okay, we hear this. Now let's try to rule out, what could this be in the physical world? What could this be? We can't just jump to a conclusion and say we've got a ghost. So it's our analytical mind, I think, personally, is our greatest tool, is that ability to analyze and think rationally and set it aside, because what if you can explain it away, you have to do that. You
Yeah,
can't just you can't just pretend. But if you can't explain it away, well, then you've got something that you can explain, and let's work with that. Let's see what we can, come up with there. So
right.
I think our
Absolutely.
analytical mind is our greatest tool. And there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree with that. Absolutely. How about you, Rob? Or I'm sorry. How about you, Stevie? I'm sorry. I got
I don't know how
mixed
I
up.
taught that answer. It's a good answer.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
is
it's
a
a
good
very
answer.
wholesome answer. So I would say, so I've been using and learning new equipment. I mean, that's, as an investigator, you have to be adaptable and, learn and utilize new tools that become available. So I recently, over the past few years, I got introduced to a REM pod in a spirit box. Um, Me personally, I like the REM pod. The REM pod, I feel so far, has provided a good tool with minimal interference, because the point of a REM pod has an antenna, um, that when you get near the antenna, then obviously it'll activate and light up. So I have found that it's hard to interfere or to fake results with the REM pod, because you actually have to physically almost be right up to it to garner any kind of reaction out of it.
Right.
So I do like the REM pod, because, like Rob said, at our private investigation we had just wonderful reactions, to the REM pod, and just to the questions we would ask it, because we would ask and try to utilize like yes and no, because yes and no's are good, because you're not trying to get an answer, but you're just establishing some kind of connection.
Right.
And then the spirit box, I've never really kind of utilized the spirit box before, but then utilizing that, I find there's windows of opportunity that I think within the spirit box, that you can get false data. You can get false, readings, but we have utilized certain kind of techniques and just kind of practiced certain things with the spirit box that garners, I think, a little bit more genuine reaction when it comes, because
Right.
you're analyzing, frequency waves, either AM or FM,
Right.
when you're using the
Right.
spirit box. So I've liked that tool. I mean, obviously that has, it has a door that it could be manipulated with.
Hmm.
And so just one of those things of just wanting to be authentic and try to troubleshoot and debunk. So that way it's easier, hopefully, to filter out, any kind of genuine
Pareidolia
yeah.
versus true
So
paranormal.
far, I mean, other than the classics of camera and recorders, I would say I've more enjoyed lately getting to utilize and getting to know REM pods and the spirit box.
Awesome. How do you feel about the Ovilus?
I don't know. I haven't used it.
Ooh, guess we're gonna have to try and get one and see what we think. Alrighty, guys. As much as I hate to say it, because I actually really, really am enjoying talking to you guys, it is the end of my hour and then some. So I want to say thank you, guys. Thank you, Stevie. Thank you, Rob, for coming and joining us. And you guys, please be sure to follow these guys on their Facebook group. And do you guys have a YouTube channel as well?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, when you do, when we get the whole shebang put together to put it on YouTube, let me know and I'll make sure to promo that. These guys are awesome. If you guys have any questions, now would be a good time. Uh, we've got about 30 seconds for hitting. So, thank you again, guys, for joining.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you for
This has
in,
been
having
in
us.
fun.
private, we'll speak a little further uh,
Yeah.
about some other. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and play my ending intro here. Well, outro,
All right. Thank you.
and stick around. Where are we at?